A 128-year-old chemical giant just packed up its corporate headquarters in Houston, Texas, and moved home to Midland, Michigan, population 42,000. Dow Incorporated, one of the largest chemical manufacturers on the planet with roughly $44 billion in annual revenue and approximately 36,000 employees worldwide, is reversing a decision it made barely 3 years ago. In an era when every headline screams about companies fleeing the Midwest for the Sun Belt, Dow is doing the exact opposite, and the reasons why should make every state in America rethink what actually keeps a Fortune 500 company loyal. Here's the timeline. In 2022, Dow officially relocated its global corporate headquarters from Midland, Michigan to Houston, Texas. At the time, it looked like the latest domino in a long chain. Caterpillar had left Illinois. Tesla had bolted from California. Oracle had decamped to Austin. Texas had no state income tax, a booming energy sector, and a governor who practically rolled out red carpets on the tarmac. Dow's move made strategic sense on paper. Houston is the nerve center of the American petrochemical industry, home to dozens of Dow's biggest customers and partners. CEO Jim Fitterling framed the relocation as a way to be closer to the company's commercial ecosystem. Midland, a small city in central Michigan, roughly 2 hours north of Detroit, seemed like the kind of place companies leave, not the kind they return to. And yet, in March of 2025, Dow announced that its senior leadership would consolidate back in Midland. The Houston office is not disappearing entirely. Dow still maintains operations there, but the strategic center of gravity, the place where the CEO and the C-suite will sit, is going back to Michigan. The question everybody should be asking is why? Fitterling pointed to something deceptively simple: proximity to research and development. Dow's Michigan campus is not a token office park. It is one of the largest integrated chemical research and manufacturing complexes in the world. Thousands of scientists and engineers work there. Pilot plants, testing facilities, and production lines that feed billions of dollars in global output are clustered within miles of each other. When leadership sits in Houston, 1,500 miles away, decisions slow down. The informal hallway conversations between a vice president and a lab director do not happen. The feedback loop between the people making strategy and the people making molecules gets longer and weaker. Fitterling essentially acknowledged that the Houston move had introduced friction into Dow's innovation pipeline, and in a business where a single breakthrough polymer or a faster catalyst process can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, that friction has a real cost. But there is a deeper story here, one that goes beyond any single executive's preference. Midland, Michigan is not just where Dow has a campus. Midland is a Dow town. Herbert Henry Dow founded the company there in 1897. For more than a century, the company and the city grew together. Dow funded schools, built community centers, shaped the local housing market, and anchored a regional economy that stretches across the Saginaw Bay area. When Dow moved its headquarters to Houston, the symbolic blow to Midland was enormous. Property values near the corporate campus softened. Local businesses that depended on executive travel, corporate events, and the steady churn of visiting engineers and clients saw revenues dip. Civic leaders in the Great Lakes Bay region openly worried about a slow-motion brain drain. If the top executives leave, mid-level managers follow, and eventually the research talent starts looking at job postings in warmer climates. The return of the headquarters does not erase 3 years of uncertainty, but it sends an unmistakable signal. Dow's future is still anchored in Michigan. Now, the contrarian take deserves its own scrutiny because it would be easy to overread this. Texas is not suddenly losing its grip on corporate America. The state added more corporate relocations in 2024 than any other in the country. Houston alone gained tens of thousands of jobs in the energy and technology sectors over the past 5 years. One company reversing course does not invalidate the structural advantages that Texas offers. No state income tax, relatively affordable commercial real estate compared to the coasts, and a regulatory environment that most chief executive officers still describe as business-friendly. Critics of the Michigan comeback narrative will point out that Dow's situation is genuinely unusual. Very few Fortune 500 companies have a 100-plus year manufacturing and R&D footprint in a single small city. The gravitational pull of Midland on Dow is not something that can be replicated for a software company or a financial services firm with no physical plant. That is a fair point, and it matters. But here's what that counterargument misses. The lesson from Dow is not that Texas is failing. The lesson is that the migration story everyone has been telling, that companies flee high tax and high regulation states and never look back, is incomplete. Some moves do not work. Some relocations look brilliant in a press release and then quietly erode the operational advantages that made a company great in the first place. Dow discovered that being near its customers in Houston was less valuable than being near its own scientists in Michigan. That is a calculation more companies will have to make as remote work reshuffles where knowledge workers are willing to live, and as the cost of living in Texas's boom towns keeps climbing. Houston's median home price has risen more than 30% since 2020. Traffic congestion in the metro area now rivals Los Angeles on certain corridors. The hidden costs of the Texas boom, including infrastructure strain, rising housing prices, and an overburdened power grid that made national headlines during Winter Storm Uri and again during summer. 2023 rolling blackouts are starting to show up in corporate decision-making, even if no CEO will say so publicly. For the people of Midland, this is personal. The city's economy is not diversified enough to absorb the loss of its anchor employer's leadership presence without consequences. When Dow moved its headquarters away, local restaurants, hotels, and service businesses felt the pullback almost immediately. Real estate agents reported that higher-end homes near the Dow campus sat on the market longer. School enrollment in certain districts showed slight declines as families followed jobs south. The reversal brings cautious optimism, but also a hard-earned lesson. A community that depends on a single corporation for its identity is always one board meeting away from crisis. Midland's leaders have spent the past 3 years talking about economic diversification, attracting small and mid-sized manufacturers, and investing in tourism around the region's rivers and nature preserves. Whether the headquarters return slows that diversification push or accelerates it will say a lot about how seriously the city took the wake-up call. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office moved quickly to frame the return as validation of the state's economic strategy, pointing to recent investments in electric vehicle supply chains, semiconductor manufacturing incentives, and workforce development programs aimed at retaining technical talent. Whether those programs actually influenced Dow's decision is debatable. Fitterling's public statements focus squarely on operational proximity, not state-level policy. The political narrative matters because it shapes the next round of incentive packages that states offer to attract or retain corporate headquarters. If Michigan can credibly claim it won back a Fortune 500 headquarters without slashing taxes to zero, that changes the playbook for Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and every other Rust Belt state watching companies leave. The bigger picture is this. For more than a decade, the dominant story in American corporate geography has been a one-way conveyor belt running south and west. And for most companies, that story is still accurate. But Dow's return to Midland proves the conveyor belt has a reverse switch. Sometimes the place a company was born is the place it needs to be. Sometimes the tax savings and the sunshine are not enough to replace 128 years of institutional knowledge concentrated in a few square miles of central Michigan. The migration narrative is not broken, but it just got a lot more complicated. Capital Flight is tracking what happens next.